And hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Haunted Histories. Now, you've probably seen from the posts I've put on my Facebook page, I've got quite a lot going on in 2024, and I would love it if some of you could make it to some of the events. I think the conference, the Scary Southwest conference in March down in Cornwall is sold out. But there's three parameets going on this year, courtesy of good old Neil from the Haunted Antiques Paranormal Research Centre. I am appearing at all three. They're in April, June, I believe, and October. And you've also got the amazing Festival of the Unexplained in September, which I will be at too for not only, well, doing my history tour on the Friday, like I've done for the last 2 years, and I'll be there over the weekend, probably looking very tired and mainlining Red Bull to keep going if it's anything like last year's was. But any other things, if any ghost hunts you see that I'm going to be at, please do come and say hello. It's always lovely to meet people who take the time to listen to me blather on about history and the paranormal. Now, I was lucky enough to record an episode of a podcast that was a history, or is a history podcast last year. It's not been released yet. It will be. And I'm not telling you what I was talking about, though people who know me could probably give a good guess what one of my specialist subjects is. But I got to rage about history. And I got to rage about history to my guest tonight. I have turned the tables on him because I found out he's a bit of an expert on a subject that, well, most of you have talked about. If I just say the words Burke Hare, you might know where we're going with this. So yeah, he's just making yeah, I know. He's laughing at me now. He knows what I'm talking. I know why he's making that face, shall we say. So I decided to ask him to come on my show, and we're going to talk body snatchers and all things grave robbing. It is the wonderful Mr. Paul Bavill. Hey, Paul.
Hello.
Now, we're not raging today, are we? We're not.
No.
Which,
No,
funny
well,
enough,
we might be. Might be.
Well, actually, yeah, we probably will know me. Hormones and all that. So just I tried to drop enough hints what your podcast is called.
Okay, for those of you that haven't picked it up on yet, my podcast is called History Rage.
Yeah.
And basically, our premise is we go out to the wider historian community, whether that be other podcasters, whether that be authors, whether that be outright academics, and we always ask them the same single question, which is, what is the one thing you wish everybody would just stop believing? We light that blue touch paper and let them rant. And some people very angry, Penny being one of them. Some people, spoiler warning, some people, quite academic and will take their particular myth and really pick it apart, and to the point where you will go away having absolutely learned the truth. Some people, absolute swear fests, mentioning no Alex Churchills or Chris Kempsels out there.
I was so disappointed I was not up there with the F-bombers. If I told you how much my mother tells me off for my dirty mouth, she would be so stunned that I wasn't up there with the F-bombers.
Oh well, you just have to come back and try again, won't
you? I will. I'm gonna have I'm gonna practice. I am going to practice. But you mentioned a few of the names you've had on the podcast over the years. Then let me have some more names of people that my listeners name drop.
Right, celebrity name drops. Okay, so we did a special for the Gloucester History Festival. That's where we caught Tracy Borman on Anne Boleyn was important to Elizabeth I.
Mm-hmm.
We've had James Holland on. The Battle of Britain was not a close run thing. It was an
we love James. We love James.
Yeah, he's also come back to do a second rage that Blitzkrieg was nothing new and that nobody should be surprised by it.
Mm-hmm.
We've had also in the military history world, we've had Peter Caddick Adams on to come and rant about how much of a complete bellend Montgomery is. And so far, we cover all periods of history. I'll be talking a little bit about what our first ever episode covered tonight.
Okay.
But yeah, we've had James, we've had Tracy, we've managed to get Nina Ramirez, we've had Carl Chin ripping apart the Peaky Blinder.
He's the Peaky Blinders expert, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. our runaway success, I had two runaway successes really. One completely blindsided me, which was Francis Young, because he
Yeah.
came on and said he's very kind of academic-y,
Yeah.
churchy kind of historian, and he was just saying to me, "Oh, paganism didn't go underground in the Middle Ages," and so I thought this is going to be niche. And oh my god, it just ran away with the number. That
Wow.
man has a cult of his own. And then the
I've read
other,
some
when
of his
we,
blogs actually on his
yeah,
website.
he's good, isn't he?
He's very funny. He's
Yeah,
got that sarcasm and twist to things he says that, I was a bit worried when I first discovered him. He'd be very sort of churchy, for want of a better
yeah. I mean,
term.
we got him on,
But he's
and we
not.
listened to him. Yeah, because he just started off saying, "I'll tell you what annoys me. He was doing gargoyles on churches. People think it's some sort of pagan fertility thing because he's got his bollocks out, and away he was off." Yeah, and and yeah, sometimes that happens. And then we got the one that brought all them out of the woodwork was we got Matt Lewis to come on and go, "There isn't actually any evidence that the princess in the tower died,"
Yeah.
and boom.
I love Matt. I've done a show with Matt on the Princes as well, and I
Mm,
absolutely bloody adore him. And I
yeah.
love the fact that him, Nathan Amin, and Nicola Tallis they're going head to head at Southwark Cathedral, I think in 2 weeks' time.
I think head to head is unfair.
Well,
Two
it's two
versus
against what
one
is,
is
yeah,
well, yeah,
yeah, but you've seen how tall Matt is. I mean,
yeah,
I think
yeah.
he'll
He
be
can
able to
hold his own.
he'll hold his own.
Yeah,
And it's so funny the way he's promoting it. Like you want to see us all attack each other and everything else. I wish I could get there for it because it's good. But the thing is, the three of them are all very good friends. They have different views, but they respect each other.
mm,
And I know when that Philippa Langley thing came out on television, the documentary, and there was people sort of say, I saw people sending Nathan messages saying how nasty Matt was and why do people believe him? And he's like, whoa, 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 he's a mate of mine. We might have
yeah,
different opinions, but I still respect his opinion and he still respects mine. So, but yes, but I'm pro Richard. So I, I, I actually think
yeah.
Matt's
I
right.
mean, I always said if I was ever to do my own show,
Mm.
my rage would be Prince in the Tower. Who the hell cares?
Uh,
49,000 people die in the Wars of the Roses that we know of. Like that's the Titanic sinking like every
mhm.
year for 3 decades. Over half of those casualties die on the same day. Nobody gives a shit. And yet we care about two teenagers who changed nothing for the fact that there is actually not a single piece of evidence that they died of anything other than old age and natural causes.
Yeah.
And yet there are books and column inches, and it's just like, no.
I think
Yeah, it's like caring about Wilfred Owen and Rupert Brooke at the Somme.
Oh,
There's so much more going on.
I'd rather dig. Yeah, I care about Wilfred Owen. I quite liked Wilfred Owen. Actually, I quite like his poems. I quite like him as a person, the way he's written about. But yeah, I don't know why the infatuation actually with the princes. I
I just
blame
think it's
Shakespeare.
unsolved mystery.
It
It's
probably
like
is
Jack
on.
the Ripper. It's like,
Yeah.
who actually cares? I'm with Harley Rubenhold on this. Who cares who Jack the Ripper is?
Um. Hmm.
Just know. I'm much more interested in caring who Annie Chapman is, caring who Polly Nichols is.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. I agree on that. That people forget the victims. My issue with Jack the Ripper, and I've got quite a few friends who are Ripperologists, and my issue with Jack the Ripper is how it's romanticized. He was a cold-hearted, brutal killer, and yet you've got people who are fans of Jack the Ripper. That concerns me somewhat.
Yeah.
You can be fascinated. I mean, my thing is social history anyway. It's how the people lived, what they went through. And so I'd be more interested in why were those women on the street at the time that they were? Why were they, a couple of them, and I can't remember off the top of my head which one of them was actually come from a reasonably good upbringing.
Annie Chapman.
It was Annie Chapman, was it?
Annie Chapman,
What
yeah.
caused her descent into being in that part of London at that particular time? And that's what I'm more interested in rather than, I mean, I've got my theory on who he was, but it's just it. It's just a theory. So, um, yeah, I don't get the idolizing him that I see some people do. If I'm honest,
Yeah.
I find that quite scary.
And this sort of thing is what History Rage is all about. So you're tuning in, ladies and gentlemen, now because we set Penny off
You
again.
have set me off again. It
Yeah,
doesn't take a
it's so
lot.
easy to do.
It is because, yeah, I'm a woman. We don't get listened to very often. So I have to do my own bloody podcast. So people have to listen to me.
Even yourself.
Yeah, I have at least two listeners, I'm sure. I have at least two people who look forward to a podcast coming out. I think they're martyrs. But
Mm,
anyway, so Mr. Bavill, you are the person concerned to do with History Rage, which the website's historyrage.co.uk.
.com.
.com is the .com. Very easy to find.
Historyrage.com.
It's on Facebook, it's on social everywhere. You can find
Yeah.
it, you can listen to it. Do please go and have a listen because it is good fun. It is really,
Yeah.
really good fun to do, and I can't wait for my episode to come out because I got sweary, I got angry, but I also got technical. I did throw
Yeah.
technical shit in there. I like
It was technical shit, yes.
technical shit. I like to mix it up. But your bio says you're a historian, a presenter, but you are from God's own country in Yorkshire.
Yes.
Yet the thing you're really interested in happened really in London and Edinburgh.
Yes.
How did you get into grave robbing? That sounds really bad, doesn't it? Did you start your career as a grave robber? How did you get into grave robbing and body snatching?
Okay, so how I got into body snatching is I do a lot of like living history and demonstrating work and things like that. So every year we do the Chalk Valley History Festival, or the Chalk History Festival as it's now known. And every year they want us to do something new, and they came to us and said, can you do something that is medical history? Now, the three members of the group, two of us were very keen on getting all the fancy kit together to be like Georgian Victorian surgeons, anatomists, apothecaries, that sort of thing, looking the absolute bollocks. And then the other, what I would say more working class member, or at least out in appearance, more working class member of the group. He comes from the most middle class background of the three of us. He wasn't interested in doing anything posh, but he did put forward the idea of, well, all good surgeons need body snatchers. Like, oh, you're onto a win there. And then after about 3 bottles of wine, what this had turned into was, why don't we demonstrate to people how to snatch a body? And we do. If you go to the Chalk History Festival, you'll see it. We've got a cross section of a grave, and we will step by step you through how to actually steal a body. And it was doing so. I started looking into it, and it was one of those things that, pun intended, gets more interesting the more you dig into it.
Yeah.
And you start to see this. Everything you think you know about body snatching actually turns out to be complete crap, and it's all wildly different. And you say, it goes on in London, it goes on in Edinburgh, it doesn't go on in God's own country. Well, it does.
Really?
Leeds has a body snatching problem that it shouldn't have, and I'll probably come to the explaining.
Has or
later.
Had?
Oh,
I was going to say.
It's less of an issue now.
Okay,
but it seemed like I had a body snatching problem that there was no good reason to, or no initially sort of visible reason for it to have. And I found a local case, and I was reading a book on the subject. Just reach for it. So it's the excellent Body Snatchers by Susie Lennox.
Oh, I love her.
Yes. Well, I will plug this anytime that I'm banging on about body snatching, because I was reading that, and it's really, really good book. I'd always describe it as entry-level body snatching book, and it's not an entry, but it's so beautifully laid out. And because it's written by somebody who's an archivist as well as a historian, it's the finest, best indexed book I have ever read.
Her website, is it called Macabre Trips or Macabre
Road Trip? Yeah.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant website. Yeah.
And she's just as body snatching obsessed as I am, except for the fact that I went and actually kind of recreated how to do it. In her book, there was a case. Now I was looking at this, and then lockdown happened, and I'm suddenly at home with bugger all to do. And the whole of like the archive network was opened up to me, because the Leeds Central Library kind of threw out all of their like ancestry subscriptions and things like that. So we really start looking at some stuff, and the British Newspaper Archive and so forth. And there was a line in there that just said the body of 15-year-old Martha Roddy was stolen from a churchyard in Armley in Leeds, and it was put back in its original grave after her uncle gave offered a £50 reward. And that was all that was there. So my
Okay.
lockdown quest became find Martha Oddy.
Mm.
And so after a year of solid searching, I used to find like where she was born, when she was born,
Yeah.
when she died, what she died of, what her job was. In fact, Armley Industrial Museum even let me have a go at it, and it's one of the most terrifying things I've ever tried.
Oh, she was in the wool mill, was
She was
she?
a piecer. She was a piecer. So the idea
Okay.
is that they pull all the strands apart, and if any of the strands break, you get
Yeah.
these like kids to go in and tie them back
Underneath and
together
tie
before
them
the
back
machine.
together. Yeah.
Yeah, and I tried that. And being, at the time a 47-year-old Yorkshireman, I am not built for being a piecer.
No.
Um, but yeah, it's over the course of a year, I kind of pieced together the complete journey of her death, her
Wow.
stealing, who stole her, how much the body was sold for, who bought it, where it was discovered, and then eventually it was, I think it was like the 27th of December, with a help of a wonderful woman called Thelma, who's the church warden at St. Bartholomew's in Armley, we
Mm.
found the grave.
Wow.
So I've got the complete journey of Martha Rodney. That is the only case that I've been able to manage to find to take to completion,
Do
because
you
like
know what she
most of the
died of?
criminals,
Do you know what she
she
died of?
died. The reference that we've got, she died of a short illness to the head, which everybody that I've showed that to suggests an aneurysm.
Or being hit by something in the what's it called? The thing that she had to crawl under to do.
No, there's no sign of injury with her.
Oh,
There's
okay.
no sign of injury, so it looks like an aneurysm
Oh, bless her. At 15.
at 15. Yeah.
Ugh. Yeah, you do. You're like me. I do that when I do some research for a television show I've been asked to do some work on, and I've started researching into a couple of the names that have come up, and I'm probably doing way too much. But I want to know who they were, when they were born, if they ever got in trouble to do anything, where they went to school, when they died, where they're buried, what they're and give them words again, give them an
Mm-hmm.
existence. But so you got into it because you know Susie Lennox, partly to blame.
Yep.
Lockdown, also to
Partly to
blame.
blame.
And this newspaper article. So they were all the
Several
ones,
newspaper
several
articles and things
newspaper
like that.
articles.
In
Yeah.
fact, I was constantly upstairs looking for the next kind of thread for where this goes, and my wife started referring to it as Paul is on the internet looking for teenage girls.
Okay. I
Yeah,
like her. I also like what you told me about who else she's a groupie for. I think I'm gonna get on with her. I'm gonna get on with
quite
her.
probably. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, when you mention body snatching to people, the names that most people will come up with are Burke and Hare.
Yeah.
Now, you didn't pull a
Yeah.
face at me when I said that just then, but when
I
I
kind
intro
of knew it was coming.
yeah, all right, mm, I foreshadowed it a bit earlier. But you know, when I said it earlier, you went sort of face.
Yeah, because this was our
Why?
first ever episode of History Rage, right? And
Right?
out there, ladies and gentlemen, if you are listening to this, if you take nothing else away from me banging on about body snatching for an hour, take this one fact away with you, treasure it. Burke and Hare are not body snatchers. They are the UK's, probably the world's most famous pair of body snatchers. And yet there is not a single shred of evidence that they actually stole a body from a churchyard at all. They're too lazy to do it. They are just serial killers. They are murderers.
Mhm.
Okay. They do what body snatchers do, or at least part of it, because what they're doing is so William Hare and his wife owned a lodging house,
Yeah.
and they had a tenant. Can't remember the name off the top of my head. I can't remember
No,
the
I
name of the
can't
first
remember.
tenant. The second, it's Joseph somebody, and then there's an old Donald. But basically, this tenant dies in his sleep,
Mm,
owing £4 in rent
mhm,
to Hare and his wife, and they don't really know what to do with it. And then they find out that Robert Knox will pay for bodies,
mhm,
um, and so yeah, they take the body away. They even call an undertaker, and there's a coffin involved, and that coffin's just filled with bark so that it's weighted down because the body's still under the bed.
mhm,
And then when all that's gone, they just take the body off down to Robert Knox, and he pays them, I think, £7, 10 shillings
mhm,
for the body, which is it's pretty standard amount for a body. Is that you usually get somewhere between like £4 and £8. If it's a really kind of unique one, or it's a really kind of fresh one,
Mm.
then you can get up to 10, which is quite a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
I'll come into the amount of money you can make as a body snatcher probably a little later on,
Okay.
um, but you've got, so they go off and do that, and then there's another death, and they go and sell that body as well, and then they're seeing how much money they get from this, so they start to hasten the process on
Mm-hmm.
for people. So I think in the case of Old Donald, which is the second one, he was about to die, but he was hanging on in there,
Mm.
and they kind of speeded that process up by like smothering him with a pillow and so forth, and then going and selling the body. And then we think there is somewhere between 11 and 16 people that they actually killed
Wow.
to sell that, possibly even as high as 21.
Blimey.
But there is no evidence at all that they went to the trouble, and it is trouble, of actually going and digging up a grave. It's a lot harder than you think to be a body snatcher. It's not just turn up with a shovel, dig a hole, and get some money.
Yeah.
There is a real art and skill to it.
So
And
why
they didn't have that.
no, so I mean there's another group that are called body snatchers, which actually weren't body snatchers. I'm going to talk about the London Burkers in a minute.
Yeah.
But why is it then that groups, is it like the Borough Gang, who were genuine grave robbers and were genuinely quite successful at it? Why does everyone, do you think of Burke Hare rather than the Borough Gang and like Ben Crouch and Joshua Naples and all of those?
So first of all, Burke Hare got the notoriety because Burke Hare got caught.
Right.
And they got caught for doing something spectacularly wicked. I mean, say what you like about the Borough Gang, their victims were already dead.
Yes. And one of the things I found quite interesting, looking at the legal side of it, the reason it wasn't seen as a crime is the body didn't belong to anyone. So they weren't taking anything. So they weren't stealing. It was it was kind of a victimless crime almost.
Yeah. Which kind of then reminds me, because you keep referring to the term grave robbing. That's a very different thing.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. So it's like rule 3 of being a body snatcher is only ever take the body. Because if you go back to sort of pre-1810 and things like that, so golden age of body snatching is probably about 1750 to about 1820.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for the large bulk of that time, we're under a system of law called the Bloody Code. And I love the Bloody Code.
Mm-hmm.
It's a section of law where we've got 225 separate hanging offences on the British statute books for such heinous and evil crimes as damaging a fish pond, impersonating a Chelsea pensioner, being in the company of gypsies for more than a month, is another classic, damaging Westminster Bridge. And the important one, theft to the value of 5 shillings or greater. That is a capital offence, and that will get you hanged.
Okay.
So what you do, because of the underlying tenets of anti-slavery legislation, is that your body cannot be owned.
Yeah.
And if it can't be owned, then it can't be considered an asset that you can be permanently deprived of, which is the legal definition of theft.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're caught as a body snatcher, providing all you've got is the body, you're probably going to get a minor fine for the misdemeanor of grave desecration.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you've got actually some of the stuff that the body had with it and was buried with it,
that's the difference.
You are looking at a capital crime and a massive. And even after 1810, so about 1810, we get rid of the Bloody Code. We get civilized. We start to do things like imprisonment and other sorts of like, more humane types of punishment. But I'll give you a classic example. So you've got a chap in my local area in Leeds. Called John Pickering, and he's part of the Pickering gang. There's 6 of them. They're quite notorious body snatchers around this area. There's rarely a churchyard around South and East Leeds that hasn't been turned over by these guys.
Right.
And now when they're finally caught, he's kind of banged up as the ringleader of them. Bear in mind, this is about the 3rd or 4th time that he's been caught doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And he ends up with a year in York Castle jail. Mm-hmm. But mostly it gets either a £10 fine, which the surgeon he's supplying bodies to will pay, or he will get like 1 month of hard labour in York Castle jail. Not fun, but not the noose. Mm. Then you take someone like Samuel Clark, who's an Essex body snatcher. Mm-hmm. He didn't take the clothing off the body. So he took the body, he hid the body out of the way. The body's still wearing a linen burial dress, some fairly decent shoes, and I think a couple of items of jewelry. So same, in fact, not even same crime, because it's this guy's first offence,
Mm-hmm.
or at least first time he's been caught. 7 years transportation to Tasmania he got.
Because he had the
That's
clothes.
because he had the stuff, and he was basically guilty of that theft of the value of greater than 5 shillings. And that is the massive difference. So when you see, like, I don't know if out there, if you've watched like the Great British Dig with Alice Roberts when they were so like previous season, they were excavating St James's churchyard because HS2 was going to go through it. You had all these osteoarchaeologists who like the second creepiest people in the world, and they were like poking about and taking out all the bodies and everything.
Who's the first creepiest?
Actuaries. Anybody who wants that job has got to be absolutely just terrifying. You don't want to invite them anyway. So, you know, to all the actuaries listening, sorry, not sorry. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Ask an actuary ask an actuary what the time is. They'll tell you how to make a watch.
Yeah, and when you're going to die. And it's yeah, the only people ghosts could turn up to and go, yeah, you were right. But yeah, so when they dug up St James's churchyards in the centre of London, HS2 route, and they were moving all the bodies, I mean, they found two things. Like, first of all, that about 1 in 3 coffins there was empty. There was no body, but all of the stuff that the people were buried with was still in the coffin.
Wow.
So you take it out, you strip the body, you put it all back.
So these are all body snatching sites that nobody knew about.
Yeah, and you know, a good body snatcher can be in, body out, grave filled in, covered over, and gone inside 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And a good body snatcher will leave you no evidence that they're ever there, which is what makes researching them so goddamn hard, because I can only track bad ones. And I've got some great examples of bad ones. There was a guy called Thomas Brown, another one in Leeds. He stole the body of a 5-year-old girl called Hannah Heeson. Now, you're totally stealing children's bodies if you can. Because you think about where a surgeon is going to get their bodies from for the dissection table, there's only one legal route of obtaining those, and that is gallows.
And not women. Oh, no, it was women, wasn't it? It was men. It was men. Men tended to they would only put men in gibbets, because the women's bodies, if a woman was hanged, they needed the body for anatomy research, whereas they had more men than women, obviously, in the news. So women were never gibbeted, only men.
Also, do bear in mind as well that there is a whole section of women that we burn rather than hang. At the time, for petty treason and high treason and so forth, whereas we would hang the men for that. So there are fewer women generally getting hanged. So trying to find a legal source of a female corpse is difficult. Trying to find a legitimate source for child corpse is impossible. True. You know, we are not hanging children, so you can tend to get quite a bit of money for children if you can get hold of them. Now, this guy this guy was absolutely awful. He made such a mess of the graveyard that he was actually handed over to the authorities by his partner in body snatching, a chap called William Yeardley. Yeah.
Good for him.
Chap in question is Thomas Brown. William Yeardley, I've got to admire him. I do have to admire him, because what they did was they stole the body eventually after he'd trashed the place. And then they went and sold the body for £2.06. And then once they'd collected the money for the body, William Yeardley handed him over to the authorities and collected the £10 reward for further information. So yeah, for the entrepreneur there.
Yeah, that's one way to sort of sack your colleague, really, isn't it? Sack an employee.
Yeah, very much so.
I think
when you look at what the state he left that a graveyard in, put the entire community on alert that there is a body snatcher working in our area, and you don't have much to fear from the law, but you absolutely have stuff to fear from the relatives. They will come around with many bats, guns, things like that to deter body snatchers.
Well, that was one of the ways they did try and deter them, wasn't it? They'd take up watch. They'd become night watchmen. And I know there's a church in London, because I saw it on a tour recently. They've still got the little hut that the grave watcher could sit in to keep themselves warm at night. And then when you get things like mort safes,
who doesn't love a mort safe?
Oh, I still see people thinking they're to stop vampires and witches, and it makes me want to bang my head against things, because it doesn't matter how many bloody times you tell them that's not what it's for. No, it is there's something to do with it.
Yeah.
um Apart from, there is a mort safe up in Scotland, and I think I mentioned this to you when we spoke recently, and I looked up who it was over, and it's I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right because I'm not Scottish, Siath Moore, and he has 5 cursed homing stones on his grave that is meant to represent the survivors of the Battle of the Clans in 1396. And if anyone touches one of these stones, they meet their demise, and there's
Mhm.
stories of that genuinely happening. So they put basically what looks like a mort safe over
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
stones
I've
to
seen the
protect
one. It's
them.
like a
You've seen,
circular cage. Yeah.
that's the one. And but there's so many people who are like, oh, that they're either, there's a witch buried there, there's a vampire buried there, or it's a Victorian mort safe. And when you point, actually, no, it's not Victorian. It's actually 20th century. They put it there to stop people moving these stones, because apparently, I can't remember when it was. It was about 1930 or something. Somebody decided to throw one of the stones in the river and think it was funny because they didn't believe in the curse. And the stone ended up washing itself back onto the side of the river. And then the person who thrown it was found in the river instead.
Yeah.
And so you get sort of stories like that, which it's true cause of death. Whether it was an accident or something, I don't know, but there's more than one similar sort of story.
Mhm.
But so you had the mort safes, and you do seem to see more of those up north of the border than you do
Certainly,
down here.
because I mean, you would potentially see them in London. But the thing is, London gets kind of renovated a lot more often than
Mm,
Edinburgh does, and so things change and people move graves, and like
mm,
graves move around quite a lot in London, less so in
yeah.
Edinburgh. So what's there is pretty well preserved. I mean, it's not just the mort safes that are there to bet. There is a whole catalogue of stuff to defend against body snatching.
Well, there's
There's
obviously the
phenomenal.
Watchman, the mort safe. One I found, which I thought was, I quite like the sound of, coffin torpedoes.
Coffin. Now this the American one.
Yeah.
The American one, yeah. This actually we don't have any evidence that any of this was UK. And if you want
Mm.
something really insane in like Georgian times, you need to go to either America or Germany. There are two places that go utterly insane. But yeah, there is a patent for the coffin torpedo. Now I haven't really examined it to the point of knowing all the physics, but the
No.
idea being is that when the coffin lid opens, all the gunpowder goes off and the whole
Yeah.
bloody thing explodes.
Similar
Yeah,
with a shotgun. They had a shotgun that if you moved the lid, the shotgun went off and shot whoever was trying to.
close. If you've got now the cemetery gun, and these do exist, and there is actually one in Preston Park Museum in Stockton on Tees.
Really?
They've got one there, yes, and it's like this giant caliber musket, and it is probably the most expensive and the least effective defense against body snatching going, because the idea is you've got this giant, what looks like a small cannon, stuck on top of the
Mm,
gravestone, with a wire that goes into the grave. And the idea being is when the shovel pulls on the wire, it sets the gun off.
hmm
Yeah, you just seriously, you come up, you just cut that wire.
Do you know what I
Done.
think? I think the best thing to stop sorry, not grave robbers, body snatchers, actually all grave robbers for that matter, would have been, it's for someone to have a straw and be told, them to say, look, there's a fresh body just gone in, and they're still alive because they've got a straw, and they go to pull them out, and then as they go to see the person, the boat goes boom from inside that would have stopped them.
Yeah, yeah, that would have stopped them well in their tracks. But there's a lot of defenses, some really simple ones. And one of the most simple and one of the most effective ones that we'd ever found was to coffin in the ground, put a layer of soil over the coffin, put a layer of straw there, put a layer of soil, layer of straw, layer of soil, layer of straw
Mm,
until you've filled up your grave.
right.
Okay. Because it's really, really difficult to get a wooden shovel because you're not using a metal one.
That's
And
right. That was
rule
one of the
one,
rules, wasn't it? Yeah, you had to use
yeah,
a wooden
always use a
shovel.
wooden shovel.
Yeah.
And now I've actually we did our cross section in that marathon. We've tried to get into that grave using a wooden shovel where there are layers of straw, and you just can't do it.
Really?
Yeah, and it's a really good defense because a body snatcher will get about 6 inches down into the ground, see straw, and go, "Christ, I'm moving on."
Really?
So the object of a defense against body snatching is not to prevent necessarily the body snatcher getting to your loved one. A good
Yeah.
criminal will find a way. Okay, what you want to do is, if they're going to walk out of that churchyard with the body, you want to make sure it's not yours.
Yeah.
So at that point, what you need to do is you need to make your loved one look harder work than the grave next door.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the geniuses of the mort safe, because they'll come in and look at that guy. I'm not pissing about with that.
Yeah.
Move on. And this, you see the straw and you go, I'm not wrestling my way through that. I'm trying to do this in 30 minutes. The Borough Gang that you mentioned earlier, quite capable of getting 15 bodies out of a single graveyard in a night.
Yeah.
Okay, they work quickly. And they do that by picking their targets.
Doing their research.
Well, it's on that subject then. It's actually a bit of well, I'll come to picking targets in a moment. I'll do a little bit more on defense, because that's the easy defense. There's another poor man's defense is people used to leave white pebbles on the top of graves so they could tell if the grave had been disturbed.
Okay.
All that actually did was just tell the body snatchers where the really fresh corpses were.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was actually a defense that went the other way around. You get coffin collars. These are great. There's a couple of these, I think, in the Hunterian Museum and one in the Anatomical Museum in Scotland. And that is very simply what it says. What you do is you get this iron band that goes around the neck of the corpse with a couple of bolts in the bottom. You literally screw the corpse to the bottom of the coffin. That really annoyed body snatcher, because you can put all that level of work in and then find that you can't get the body out. It's not foolproof. Not every surgeon needs the head. So
it's kind of like how a doll is fixed into a box when you buy a doll, isn't it, really?
Very few dolls that I bought, but yeah.
Well, all right. I saw the Barbie film at the weekend. They did that.
I have nieces and goddaughters. I've done it in the past, yeah. But it's that similar sort of thing. But not every surgeon needs the head. So if you're selling to somebody who's looking to investigate for the possibilities of advancing gastric surgery, they don't need heads.
But so the problem they would have had then is, one of the things that I was quite interested to find out when I started doing the research was they wouldn't open up the whole grave. They just open up almost the head end. So they pull the body out. And it was like, well, that does make complete sense, actually. It's less mess, it's quicker. No wonder people like the Borough Gang were able to do as many bodies in a night as they did. But it would be harder even then for them if they've only exposed like the neck and above. It's going to be harder for them to get the rest of the body out, because they're going to have to make the hole bigger.
But honestly, you can. I know it's harder to get the body out if you haven't got the head. That's one, because one of the things that you would do is you would place a noose or a cord or something like that around the neck and then pull it out the hole. The way we do it, mostly because I like to save the £75 resuscitation doll that I bought for the purposes of this. I don't want to break it. So we use the other method that they used to do, which is they go under the arms. Yeah. So you get 2 lengths of fabric or arms, you loop those, you go under the arms and you pull that out. Now, if your corpse hasn't got a head, that is no problem to doing that in that way. And you can still get in roughly the same hole as well.
Oh, okay.
You're digging basically about 1/3 of the grave out. And what you're doing is you're piling the soil actually on the other end of the grave, because what that does is that adds extra weight to the coffin lid and makes it easier to break.
Cantilever the lid or something? It acts as a cantilever?
When you go to break the lid, the more weight that's on the other side of it, the easier you'll find to break it.
Yeah, okay.
And of course, it keeps all the soil in a nice, neat place where you can just put it back. Because everything you dig out of the ground, you've got to put back.
So, I mean, I mentioned the Borough Gang because they were the main one I found who were what I would say is true body snatchers. And I think it was Joshua Naples actually wrote about it. One of the team actually, he's written on it. And I mean, he wasn't, shall we say, when you look at his CV, he wasn't an archetypal criminal. I mean, he fought under Nelson. He was actually a grave digger in Clerkenwell. How, and I mean, another one of them I found, Daniel Butler, he'd actually worked in the dissecting rooms. How many do you know of these sort of the people who did the body snatching? And we'll talk the proper body snatchers. So I'm not talking about the London Burkers, who I wrote a blog about not so long ago, if anyone wants to know who they were. I'm not talking about Burke Hare. I'm talking about the true body snatchers. How many of them actually, their livelihood included either working in the dissecting rooms or working as grave diggers or something to do with the graves?
Grave diggers is quite common. It's on the whole, it's very hard to it's very hard to track all of the body snatchers. We can track the bad ones, but you're right. A lot of sextons do get involved in the body snatching because one of the things they see is how much money they're getting given just to turn the other way from them. Okay, so if you think, and this is probably a good time to go into the amount of money that you can get as a body snatcher, because we get this out of Naples's diary. So Naples keeps this diary, and we have fragments of it left. We don't have all of it, but we've got fairly comprehensive between 1811 and 1812. And in there, they're writing in it, like, not only how many they're getting, but from what graveyards and who they're selling them to and how much they're selling them for. And then you get lovely little phrases like "thing bad," which meant that we opened the coffin and it was way too far gone for a surgeon to be interested in. So you've got the corpse that they've found is just way too putrid for them to be able to do. So I can't imagine, like, just it's the only way I could describe it. It's like, but you then and you've also got then how much they were splitting amongst themselves, and you look there, and there's like in a week they're capable of getting things £21, 13 shillings and 9 pence. Okay,
what would that be
each.
equivalent? What's that equivalent to now, would you say?
So, well, this is where I did the maths on this. Now, you could just put that in an inflation calculator and you get a pretty pale response, because going that far back, tracking the RPI, CPI is neither here nor there. So what I did was I compared that with the average wage in 1810 of a chap that owns a shovel and a cart. And that was 11 shillings a week. So they're making each, gang of six, each 39 times that. I then took minimum wage today, full-time job, multiplied that by 39. Okay, scan that up to the rest of the year, then shrunk it back down again, because actually you get 5 months of the year off. Because what you're feeding here is anatomy schools, so this works in the academic year. Also, you tend not to go body snatching in the summer because there's a lot less darkness. The ground heat is not doing the bodies particularly good. So if you want to stay safe from body snatchers, get buried in July. and there's no students around. So your sales are down. So you have about 5 months of the year off. Okay, so it was 7 months compared to national minimum wage now. You ready for this?
Go on.
You'd be on £288,000 a year.
I could understand in a way why they did it.
And you'd have better holidays than the teachers have as well.
Yeah. No, I can. Yeah, it could be worth the risk.
Yeah, it's absolutely when what you're risking as well is like,
especially for the punishment, a slap on the wrist, basically. I mean, wasn't it from it was after about 1788, 1790 that they changed it, that it did become a kind of crime, because whilst the body didn't belong to anyone, it was morally wrong to do it. And I wrote down the contra bonos mores was what it was seen as, and that's why they then started sort of getting a bit more angry about it. But I think, I mean, you know, it's like any crime. They were stealing the bodies to sell to the anatomists. If the anatomists weren't willing to pay for bodies and sort of turn the other cheek as to where it came from, it wouldn't have been a trade. Because it's like a lot of things. It's like if there isn't a request for these things, it doesn't happen. So
it's feeding a black market, basically.
Yeah. So if the anatomists actually had morals and chose not to take the bodies. I mean, the other thing as well is, I read one of the other rules, correct me if I'm wrong, was never hand over a body with its teeth.
Always get the teeth. That's very simply because surgeons don't need the teeth. So you can sell the teeth to a dentist or to a denture manufacturer. And you can absolutely. In fact, the Borough Gang actually take 2 weeks off from body snatching and go to the battlefield of Waterloo to collect the teeth.
Ooh, I mean, I did learn about the teeth thing when I went to Beamish, the museum at Beamish, because they've got a dentist surgery set up in one. I don't know if you've ever been there to Beamish.
Yes, I have.
They've got a dental surgery, and in it, the dentist was saying, you know, we give you false teeth, or by the way, these were from a human who didn't need them anymore. And I remember seeing that and going, oh gosh, but no, that makes sense. But yeah, never leave the teeth. And also never work in a full moon.
Yeah.
Now, I
In
wondered if
fact,
that
if
was
you
some kind
look,
of supernatural thing, but it's not,
no,
is it?
it's literally to do with the fact that you can be just so easily seen. Excuse me.
Sorry?
Yeah, so under the full moon, if you actually look in the Beauregard's sort of background, they've
Yeah,
got almanacs, they've got phases of the moon that they're
right.
working towards. They know all this stuff. We have this idea of the body snatcher, and this is kind of given out by, class examples are, well, the Burke Hare movie is a classic
Yeah.
example of, like, we're talking about thick peasants here. There's a couple of museums mentioning no Nottingham Justice museums there that have also kind of fed this idea as well, with a few of their costumes interpretations. But actually, these people are really intelligent. This is absolute organized crime. They've got a
Mm-hmm.
whole network of intelligence and other people that are involved. I mean, first of all, so you want to earn £288,000 a year, okay? Right. You've got your shovel, you've got your cart, you've even got a friendly surgeon. Now you need to know where you're going in that graveyard.
Mm.
Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to get hold of your copy of the Times, so you can start reading the obituary column, and you're
Mm-hmm.
going to start reading the death announcements, and that's going to tell you where all the funerals are
That would have
and
been
when they're
unusual
going
in
on.
its that would have been unusual in back then for them to be literate as well would not have been common. So they
Yeah,
had to
this
have
is
be
not a
intelligent. They had to have had a level of intelligence and learning because it wasn't common. Literally
no.
being able to read and write back in the
We
early
are before
1800s.
we are before compulsory schooling here.
Well before compulsory
Well
schooling. That
before.
wasn't like 1780, 1790. I think it became absolutely compulsory. Um, yeah, something else I've done a bit on.
Yeah,
Um,
but
but
yeah, they're going to go. They're going to
but
go off.
that's
They're going to read all the death
that's
columns,
pretty
find the
amazing.
humor.
They could read and write,
Yeah,
in all honesty. For
and also then what they're going to do then is they have very effective tool that they use in order to gather intelligence, and that is women. And what they would do is they would send ladies off to the funeral posing as mourners, and the mourners would be sitting there wailing their hearts. I mean, Penny, can you cry on command? Can you go into a complete over emotional shit fit
I can
whenever you're required
actually,
to?
I
Yeah, thought,
can.
thought so. So you would do that. And oh, the good Lord, Uncle Jack, he was wonderful. He was a saint, did a lot of great work for charity. Oh, he made jam and those. And meanwhile, what you're doing is you're noting down how far down in the ground that coffin is. You're also finding out what he died of, because I really do not want to open a coffin full of typhus or smallpox. Thank you very much.
Hmm.
Uh, and and you're also checking if there are any defenses around and things like that. And you're in some cases checking if the family have thought about body snatchers at all, and are there going to be any defenses there,
Even the
uh,
straw.
even the straw, you
Mm.
know. So so we're using that intelligence. They would turn up as well at workhouses, and they would claim the unclaimed dead, because the workhouse didn't want to pay for the funeral, so it didn't ask too many questions.
Hmm.
So they would come in and go, yeah, he's one of ours. I remember him. He's Uncle Ronald, but he's a woman. Yeah, well,
Was
you
that
know, don't,
pre
don't misgender
1832?
him, you fascist. And away they go.
Was that pre 1832 Anatomy Act? They
Yes.
were still approaching the workhouses.
They were going
Okay.
to the workhouses, yeah, because they were just, but they were just going, yes, he's a relative of ours, so we'll take the body, and they're taking, but they don't even need to dig anybody up at that point. They're taking the body out off down to the off down to your Astley Coopers and your windmill surgeries and so forth, and selling the bodies.
Mm.
Now, so you mentioned on that as well, you get, so we mentioned earlier that I looked into this and I shouldn't have, because there is no reason it should happen in Yorkshire.
Mm.
So now we've
Well,
covered.
it's because you didn't have any medical. You had the medical training facilities were London and Edinburgh, weren't they? Those are the
Yeah,
two
there were
main.
there were no surgical schools in Yorkshire
No.
at the time. There was one turns up in Sheffield a little later, and there's one in Birmingham, but there's certainly none in Leeds.
Mm.
There's none in West Yorkshire at the time, and there's also we've no real hospitals at that point either,
Right.
to that level. So there shouldn't be that demand there.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, I've managed to find 9 cases that I can find within the Leeds area, and they're just the bad ones where people got caught. Okay, where they knew a body had been done. So there's a lot
Right.
more that's gone on in that area. And I've had to work this out. But based on what happens to a lot of these bodies, what I worked out is what we are next door to in Leeds is the Great North Road,
Yep.
which goes from London to Edinburgh.
Yep.
Leeds is a mail order hub for human corpses.
Mm-hmm.
They are stolen to order. And in fact, what I found with the case of Martha Oddy that I was researching, her body was bought by a surgeon called Robert Baker.
Right.
There are shrines to Robert Baker all over the Thackeray Medical Museum. He is like West Yorkshire's answer to Jon Snow. He's part of getting the Factory Sanitation Act sorted out and everything. He pretty much defeats cholera in the north of England. This man is an absolute hero. He has bought every body that I have been able to track. He is up to his neck in the illegitimate body snatching trade, which I think
was he taking them up north? Was he taking them up north?
He was sending them all over the place. So the body of Martha Oddy was discovered in York on a coach bound for Edinburgh.
Right.
The body of another chap, what's his name? I forget his name. I think it might be Thomas Rowley. Could be wrong on that. But his body is found in Newcastle in a coach in a big box marked "Books handled with care," and it is addressed to a Reverend Mitchell of Carlisle. Now, Robert Baker had bought these bodies, and he'd said that he'd only bought the bodies so that he could return them to their loved ones. And it's like, I have questions, Bobby Milado. It's like, number one, you didn't know who the body was, so you absolutely don't know who the loved ones to return it to are. And secondly, if it's been stolen in Leeds and you're buying it in Leeds in order to return it for its loved ones, why is it on a coach in Newcastle addressed to a chap in Carlisle?
Yeah, definitely. So he was basically acting as a middleman. He wasn't doing the dirty work, but he was the one selling, the wholesaler, if you like, selling the bodies on.
Yeah, the retailer. He did keep some back for his own research and practice and things like that, because a good surgeon needs to do some dissections.
But they do. I mean, it's one of those things you're torn, because it's like a body is just a body. The person's dead. They don't care.
Yeah. Whereas, have you ever had an operation?
Yes.
One of the things that may not have gone through your mind, but I imagine is really important, is that when you're about to go under the anaesthetic for that operation, bear in mind we're talking about surgery that didn't have anaesthetic at this time.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're about to go under that anaesthetic, what you really want is for that surgeon to have performed that operation before. Yeah. You don't want somebody who's just finding out you don't want the Brantley Cooper. You want the Astley Cooper.
Yeah, you want someone who's seen, if you're having your arm sewn back together from the inside, you want someone who's seen the inside of an arm before, who kind of knows which
tubes go in which places.
But that's what I mean. That's why I'm torn about it, because I kind of know it was a crime, but in a way, it was a victimless crime, because, as you've said, with a lot of, I like to be contentious, a lot of these London graves that were discovered, and I do remember someone saying to me that wherever you walk in central London, you're probably walking on a former grave because of how many bodies are buried in London. But the living relatives wouldn't have known that body had gone, because if the borough gang had done their job, had done their job well, nobody would ever know that body was gone. There was going to be no reason to dig it back up again to check if it was still there.
Yeah.
So the family would never have got hurt by it. The surgeons who got to dissect it would have learned something, and hopefully would have made them better at their jobs going forwards, which would have then been saving lives. So how, in a way, I've just got my train of thought on this one. I hadn't planned this. This is all off the cuff. How different is a body being sold for dissection to someone donating their organs after death?
I think the method there is choice. I would say is the difference there. Bear in mind, at this stage in history, you couldn't leave your body to science.
No.
And actually being dissected was not only feared because it was felt that you couldn't enter the afterlife unless you had an intact body. So we actually see cases, and this case actually happened to William Burke. William Burke wasn't just sentenced to be hanged. William Burke was sentenced to be hanged and dissected. Literally a fate worse than death.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's the element of choice there. I mean, now you can leave your body to science. You can carry a donor card. You can
Mm.
sign up to the organ donor register. I mean, okay, the organ donor register is now something that you have to opt out of, I believe, which
Yes.
I have my own thoughts on that, um, but you certainly that choice is still there that you don't have to. And when that choice has been taken out of your hands, I think you've got a lot of moral questions to ask. However, as a Yorkshireman, if you're going to pay me 288 grand a year, I'll be careful not to trip over my morals that are now lying in a pile by the bins.
Oh, we could talk about the donation thing and why I think it's actually a good idea to be an opt-out as opposed to an opt-in, but that's a whole other conversation. Um, I mean, yeah, it was because wasn't it? It changed after the 1832 Anatomy Act, and
Yes.
that's when officially workhouses, prisons, any type of hospital, if they had an unclaimed body, it could be sold to anatomists.
Given, in fact,
Oh, it was
it
given,
was
was it?
they
They
were
didn't get
given for free.
compensation. I thought some of them
Yeah.
did get compensation. Well, actually, I've seen in some workhouse logs, some of them did get compensated for it, but by not trying too hard to find a relative. Um, hmm.
God's sake, it didn't happen.
No, it did. It did. I've seen it, but not as much as people think it would have done. But I know when I went on a tour, she was talking about the anatomy act. She goes, "Oh, it meant poor people got who didn't have relatives," and I was like, "Actually, it wasn't just workhouse people. It was anyone who died in a kind of an establishment who had no
Yeah, in an
relatives to take."
institution.
Institution who had nobody to take their body. So could have been prisoners, it could have been a conventional infirmary, it could have been a workhouse, it could have been a mental health facility as well, especially the poorer ones that started being
Mm-hmm.
built sort of latter stages of the 19th century. Um, and I know there was an outcry about it because of the reasons you said, that these bodies meant that they couldn't then be enter the afterlife or whatever the religious thing of it is.
Yeah.
However, what it did mean is that the bodies got a funeral because the anatomy schools paid then for the bodies to be properly buried, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I mean, it swings roundabouts. There's upsides, there's downsides to it. I mean, what the Anatomy Act does do is it pretty much kills off body snatching
mm,
as a thing almost overnight. There's one or two cases that I've been able to track where graves are still desecrated and bodies are stolen.
right.
But it's not to be passed on to anatomists because anatomists are now going, well, why are you paying me 10 quid? Why am I paying you £10 for this body? I can get like 15 of them for free. Go and do
Mm,
one. I don't care what you do with it. Go and put it back in its hole.
mm,
And so that market is completely gone.
mm,
We do get occasions where um, bodies appear to go missing and we don't know what's happened to them and people blame it on body snatchers. But we've actually got nothing to go on as to why those bodies were stolen. The only real cases that we've got where we know that bodies were stolen after the Anatomy Act, our big famous ones, is in America.
mhm.
Charlie Chaplin's body was stolen.
Really?
There was a concerted effort to steal Abraham Lincoln's body,
Really?
and these are to ransom back to the relatives.
That is nasty. That I think, yeah, because they know that the
Yeah,
body's gone. If I think if you don't know the body has disappeared, you've got nothing to be upset about because you're not, like I say, you're not going to go and dig up the grave to check it's still. Or you
yeah.
might, I suppose,
I know.
but
It's, like I say, good body snatcher, in, out, gone, leaves no
yeah.
evidence they were ever there. I wander around graveyards and I do wonder to myself just how many of these are empty graves.
Mm, yeah. I actually don't do. I wonder how many of them are graves on top of graves because so many churches have started. You've got the 1500s graves. They've now got the 1800s and 1900s graves. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I wonder. How many bodies are under there that we don't know about? So it is a fascinating subject. And I say I didn't realize until I started looking into this for this show how organized and kind of intelligent crime it
Yeah,
was. It wasn't, there was a certain amount of opportunism for the good ones I'm talking about here. I'm not talking about the messy ones who didn't respect their trade.
yeah,
Because I'm sure the ones that did respect their trade, like the Borough Gang and everything else, absolutely spat on the ones who desecrated graves to the point where they had to mess, they left it upsetting for the relatives. It's
Yeah. Or
it,
to be even bluntly, if you leave it in that much of a mess, you can't come back to it.
yeah,
You know,
buggered
and
it
you
up for
want to
everyone
be,
else.
yeah, you want to be coming back to it.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes even beyond that into, and this is, where I won't romanticize them because they are absolute criminal gangs. There was a case in London where a surgeon basically went to use a different gang than the Borough Gang.
Right.
Because there were at one point there were 200 separate resurrection gangs working in London
Really?
alone. Yes,
Wow.
I'm surprised there anybody's left in it at all. But they swapped to using another gang. So the Borough Gang broke into the dissection room at St Thomas's Hospital and carved up all the bodies that he was going to use for his lectures the following morning,
Hmm.
so that he couldn't actually deliver the lectures, had to refund all the students their tickets. Now we're talking filling the lecture theatre there of 120 people at tickets at £7 per time, and you are
Mm.
capable of doing 10 lectures in a day. Phenomenal amount of money that we've just cost that surgeon.
Mm.
They're
Yeah.
leaving behind notes of saying like the next person we carve up is you. These are not
Well,
pleasant people
no,
by
I'm
any
not
stretch of the
insinuating they are,
imagination.
but there's worse crimes I think they could have done.
Yes, yeah, there are plenty worse crimes out
Mm.
there, but let's not let them off the hook, because
No.
as soon as the Anatomy Act came in, the Borough Gang split.
Yeah.
Several of them went off to they went back to their normal criminal lives. Joshua Naples actually started working as a mortuary assistant in St Thomas's Hospital.
Did he? Oh,
Yes, I believe Ben Crouch tried to open a hotel
he did. He did. I found
and
that.
it failed.
And it
Yes,
failed because people found out what he'd done as a previous
yeah.
career.
Also, if you look at descriptions of Ben Crouch,
Yeah.
he's exactly that person that's got a lot of money but doesn't know how to carry it.
He would also end up running the Queen Vic in EastEnders.
Quite possibly, yes.
Yeah.
He's like god awful person covered in jewelry, and you would just think, my God, by all accounts, he looks like a criminal.
Yeah, that was the thing. But then again, he tried to go straight. He did try and go straight.
Yeah,
It just society wouldn't let him, I suppose. It's just
well,
I
he's just
think,
no good at it.
well, no, some people aren't, are they? They're not destined for
Yeah,
that sort of life. But I just think, I mean, it surprises me that the films we've had have been on the Burke and Hare side of things. I don't think I've ever seen a film about the London Burkers, who, let's face
yeah,
it, they killed children. I think the one they got caught for was a 14 or 15-year-old
yep, the
Italian.
Italian boy.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
was about 14 or 15, wasn't he? And the way they killed him was pretty horrific. For those of you who haven't read my blog, and I'm sure Paul will correct me if I get any of this wrong, they basically dropped him headfirst into a well to
yeah,
kill him.
something like that.
Pretty
It's
horrendous.
not it's not body snatching, you see, it's murder. So I
It's
was less
murders.
interested in it.
Well, yeah, but it's more about sort of when people couple them, put them in with the body snatchers. It's like, no, they're not. But it surprises me there's never been a film about the Borough Gang because I would have thought they've all such characters. It would make quite a good film.
Yeah, yeah, potentially so. I mean, I have watched the Burke and Hare film, and I did like it because I watched it with a kind of switch my historian brain
Yeah.
off to such a point.
Well, doesn't it have
And
Simon? Is
Simon
it
Pegg and Andy
Pegg?
Serkis,
That's
yeah,
it.
and
Yeah,
it
and I
was,
mean, I
I mean,
can watch them do anything. So
it was
I.
made by John Landis, so this
Mm,
is the guy that gave us American Werewolf in London,
hmm.
one of my top five. And that is, this guy knows how to do a black comedy. And I do take my hat off to him because,
Mm,
as I said, Burke and Hare are a pair of serial killers.
yeah.
I said on somebody else's podcast once, like, imagine the challenge of creating like Carry On Yorkshire Ripper. I mean, just how do you do
What?
that? That's where you're coming from here. You have a pair of serial killers that killed 16 people, and you're making a comedy out of this. And it's not a bad one,
It's
actually.
not. It's quite good.
It's
But I'm
actually
just.
quite a fun film.
I'm.
The one that does annoy me with a couple of things. I don't want to get all like Rivet County on it, but there was a couple of things that just made my blood pressure burst a bit. Which, when they're selling the first body, it's like Robert Knox gives them £5 for it. Now, the first body was sold for £7, 10 shillings. Why change that amount to a lesser amount? Just what purpose does that serve? And secondly, the whole confession thing at the end. Now, there was a confession, and both Burke and Hare and their wives were arrested.
Yeah.
And but it wasn't Burke that confessed. It was Hare that confessed. Hare confessed and turned King's evidence, pinned the whole thing on Burke. And Burke was the one that gets hanged and dissected.
Yeah.
And Hare, to the best of our knowledge, is never seen again. You think he went to America. And I thought, why have you created this? Oh, I'm going to go and get hanged so that, you know, my strange theatre girlfriend can go off and open her show. And it's like, yeah, really? No.
Yeah, it's a bit like I mean, I've seen about 4 or 5 different versions of 1984, one of my favorite books of all time. There's only one version I've seen that finishes it the way Orwell finished it. All the others have this romantic that you know, Winston and the girl end up together and everything else, but the version with John Hurt is actually true to the book. It's true to what Orwell was trying to get over, that you can control someone, and they, even though he recognizes her, they don't still have this, they sort of look at each other like they're strangers because they've been reconditioned. And it's a similar thing to that. It's like they think, and that, I don't know, I think there's being there's elements of a story that you can sway away from, a bit like in Hacksaw Ridge, if we're talking films here. They aren't completely accurate to the story in Hacksaw Ridge, but it's still a good film because it still has the key elements of it. But then if you're going to change a film that much, you know, maybe. But yeah,
I was on one once, and somebody asked me to rant and rave about Titanic, which I could rant and rave about the Titanic movie forever on the basis of its historical accuracy. But my actual point was that here goes. There's no inaccuracy in the James Cameron movie Titanic, because it is not telling the story of the sinking of the Titanic. Okay, you look at the way that film is being framed. It is let's be honest, Rose DeWitt was 19 when the Titanic went down, which basically, assuming that the film is set in 1997 when it was actually released, okay, that makes us something like about 104. So this whole thing is being told from memory by a 104-year-old woman who was once a 19-year-old traumatized girl.
Right.
You now don't have to be historically accurate at all, because you're not actually recreating a historical event. You're recreating the memory of a traumatized 104-year-old woman.
Okay.
And that's why I'll argue the case that there is no historical inaccuracy in there. I mean, yes, you could. The first time I saw the movie, and like the Leonardo DiCaprio character walks onto the first class deck, and I'm thinking, well, you've just broken 50 US immigration laws, haven't you? But but you know, if the same thing had have happened in A Night to Remember, I would be getting my arse on about it.
Yeah, A Night to Remember is the one that I tend to tell people to watch if they want to watch a Titanic-esque
because
film.
That is basically, you know, that is the story of the Titanic. Whereas the James Cameron movie is one woman's romantic fantasy that may have happened on the Titanic some 90 years ago.
I think, though, the thing is, though, it's the problem with, I mean, we're talking films, right?
Okay.
What are your 5 favorite ones?
Okay, so one of them I mentioned, it's not my top one, but American Werewolf in London.
Yeah. One of the few films that you can kill yourself laughing at and be scared shitless within minutes. Yes.
And who doesn't like Jenny Agutter in a nurse's uniform as well?
Didn't do it for me.
Didn't do it for you? Oh, well, you know. I was growing up in the Logan's Run generation. You see that sort of thing very much twitches.
But let's be honest, we were talking about Henry Cavill in his trousers in The Witcher before we came on air.
So
that might give you an indicator of what works for me and what. Yeah.
I can still, you know, anything Jenny Agutter, I could get turned on by Call the Midwife.
I was going to say, what about in a nun's habit? Yeah.
Oh, don't set me off. So top 5, I've got Jaws, perfect movie.
Really?
That's my number 1. Jaws, perfect movie. When I was doing, we did like a media section of my English A level, and I wrote almost a dissertation on Jaws as declining in sequels. An example of declining in sequels. But Jaws is the perfect movie. There is nothing you can add to Jaws that will improve it, and there is nothing you can take away from it that won't harm it. Okay. It is, and it's, you know, people go, it's a movie about shark. It's not. It's a movie about how a small American community deals with a shark. And you've got all that classic. I mean, you take the second half of the movie on the boat, okay, and you just watch the character dynamics of everybody, because there's 3 guys on a boat there. And there is always 2 sides to every story. So at any point in the film, there are 2 people agreeing and 1 person opposing, and those change. all the way
Hmm.
throughout the film. So
Yeah.
you've got points where you've got things like Quint and Hooper. They're the ones with the experience of the sea and stuff like that, whereas Brody's the complete outsider. But you've got Brody and Hooper actually interested in killing the shark for a sensible reason, and Quint's out there because he just hates sharks and needs to kill the biggest shark that he's ever met
Mm.
because of the Indianapolis. And then you've got Brody and Quint versus Hooper, because Hooper's the rich kid academic. He's rich enough that he can afford the boat and he can go and spend 6 months in the Arctic Circle doing research. And as Quint says, you've got city hands, you've been counting money all your life. And all those dynamics keep changing. There is so much in that film that is not about the shark.
Mm. True.
It's just absolutely phenomenally well written.
Okay.
The emotions that are in that film that are all there. You take that classic scene where Mrs. Kittner slaps Brody in the face.
Right.
And she looks at him. She
I've
goes,
only
"You,
seen
you."
it like once because
Oh.
I'm scared of the water. So I've watched it once, but if I watched it again, I would never go in the sea ever again. Or even a
But
swimming
yeah,
pool,
it's
to be
like
quite honest.
powerful moments like that. She looks at him and goes, "You knew there was a shark there, and you let the beaches stay open. You knew, and you didn't do anything." That gives Brody his guilt, and his guilt is why a man who, like you, is scared of the water goes on that boat.
Brody's the sheriff.
Brody's the show. He's the chief of police. Roy Scheider.
That's
Yeah,
it. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
He's like he's there out of guilt for the people that he let down, that he
Mm-hmm.
could have done something to stop. So
Mm-hmm.
he's the one there with a noble cause. Hooper's there because he wants to get his name in the National Geographic. Mayor Vaughan's not wrong in that. Quint's there because he went down on the Indianapolis. He's got a serious beef with sharks, even though actually not that many people got eaten by sharks in the Indianapolis disaster. That's a different thing. So that's what makes my
Okay.
absolutely kind of perfect film.
Okay.
Um, Second best sequel ever made, Aliens.
Okay.
Absolute roller coaster, joy of science fiction. One of the most quotable movies you will ever find.
Okay.
And it's done that beautiful thing of, it took an absolute sci-fi horror classic in Alien,
Yeah.
and Cameron has looked at that and gone, I can't compete with that. I'm going to do a totally different film set in the same universe. And it was all the better for it. And everything that's tried to kind of take on the Alien universe ever since has
Yeah.
just failed,
Yeah. I
because
actually I
they've
know
been trying to.
I agree with you. Aliens is a good sequel. The only I
Mm.
tell you the only other ones I've thought of was good sequels was Terminator 2
Which
or
was number 3 on the
Terminator.
list.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, that
I
was
love
number
that
3 on the
film.
list. As you can see, I'm a bit of a Cameron nerd until he
I can
started doing
tell.
Avatar.
Mm,
But yeah, Terminator 2 was, again, he's taken that sequel idea and really rolled with it.
mm,
And a film that can get you to have an emotional reaction about the death of a killer robot
mm.
that is an absolute masterclass, because there are times at that point where who you really admire is the T-800, and who you really can't stand is Sarah Connor and John Connor. I mean,
Mm.
that's not a comfortable place to be,
No, I like
but
I
that is
actually
the
yeah
power of
that
that storytelling.
it's a very it's say that's one of the ones I would name. It's not one on my top five, but it is one of the ones I'd name as a sequel that actually stands up in its own right. You
Yeah,
could watch it without having seen one. So how many is that? We've got Terminator 2, Jaws,
Aliens,
Aliens,
American Werewolf in
Werewolf.
London,
What's number five?
Knight's Tale.
Oh yes.
Knight's Tale. As a medieval historian, can I just say, hats off, the best medieval
Is
film
it
out there.
really? Is
Oh,
it
hell
really?
yes. Hell yes. It does nothing authentically, but do you know what? Who the hell cares? Because when you
Hmm.
see it at the start, okay, and you look at that joust arena that's set up, and you've got the Queen soundtrack playing in the background, and you've got all the people doing the Mexican waves, and you've got people face painted with medieval heraldry. None of that happened in the medieval
No.
period. But do you know what? That is the atmosphere of a joust that we would understand today.
Yeah. It's a
It
good
is a
film.
world, it
It's a
is a
very good
World
film.
Cup final. And it's like all of those little like courtship routines and things like that are in there. Yeah, they've modernized them, they've put them to modern
Yeah.
soundtracks, but it's the same sort of thing that's going on.
And
And it's
the
just
cast
the
of that
cast is
film.
absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
and it's a rags to riches, change your stars story. Who just anybody who doesn't enjoy that, I think, needs to be taken out and buried alive, because we don't need them in the world.
I must admit, the
Okay,
history
because
side of it, my eldest son, when we've watched it, he said, how accurate is this? And I went, about as accurate as assuming the Americans were the only ones who landed on the beaches in D-Day.
yeah,
I said, but it's fun.
but
It's not
it's not
trying.
trying
It's
to
not
be.
trying to be historically relevant. It's trying to be, like you say, rags to riches and fun. And I mean,
Yeah,
the characters, I'll fong you, and all
yeah.
of that. I mean,
I mean,
it's
I
brilliant.
I know professional jousters,
Yeah.
and pretty much all of them had watched Knight's Tale and decide that's what I'm going to do. And there you go. And it's just, if you haven't seen it,
Oh, it's
switch your
brilliant.
historian brain off,
It's
get it on the
brilliant.
DVD player. It
Mm.
is so much fun. It
Yeah.
hurts.
Yeah. I
It's
agree. I love
Paul
that.
Bettany's finest performance on character
He is
on
brilliant.
camera.
I mean, Heath Ledger couldn't really do any wrong. Still one of the best Joker, in my opinion.
The
Um,
best Joker.
the best Joker. Yeah, that's what I say. The best Joker, in my opinion. Um, but yeah, him in that. Yeah, I hadn't. Again, that's not on my top five, but it's one I completely agree with that one. I mean, my top five, Top Gun, because
Yeah.
because
It's,
aeroplanes,
as I mentioned before we start, it's the perfect first date movie.
aeroplanes,
It's got,
good-looking men,
yeah,
a powerful woman, motorbikes. It's like my
steamy sex scenes, beach volleyball, and Russians getting shot down by F-15s. What's not to like?
That's not so much. It's more I like the flying scenes and
Yeah,
everything else. That's why I like Maverick as well. Um, It's a Wonderful Life, Jimmy Stewart. I think his emotional breakdown in that film, when you know the history behind it, makes that film even more emotional, if that makes sense.
yeah,
For those of you who don't know, Jimmy Stewart was actually a bomber pilot in World War II. He was actually based in Norfolk in England, and he lost an awful lot of crews he was in charge of because he became a commander. And that, when he breaks down in that film, he actually said he broke down for real, because he thinks all the trauma that he'd experienced during World War II, that he'd had to hold in because he had to, as a senior officer, hit him. Um, Another one people might not expect me to say is Whatever Happened to Baby Jane.
okay.
Have you ever seen it?
I haven't, no.
Oh, the fact that Bette Davis and Joan Crawford fought for real in some of the scenes, because they hated each
Hated
other.
each other, yes.
Absolutely hated each other. I am a Bette Davis fan. I think she was brilliant. But the story in it and the twist at the end of the film, great. Just great. Grease, because
Yeah.
it's a feel-good film, and
Who wouldn't like it?
I can quote it. I remember when I was young, when I was about 8 or 9, we videoed it, and every Sunday my sister and I would watch it religiously and do the duets and stuff. She was always Sandy, I was always Danny, because I had a slightly lower voice than her. And probably my fifth was this tricky one, but I think I'm going to go with Lost Boys.
Oh, classic, classic. Yeah, I
Mm,
did get the opportunity to see that in the cinema.
did
It
you?
is, yes, yeah. It was a very re-release, and oh my god, it's good.
I
Yeah,
love
that
it.
I would say is probably for me the best vampire movie ever made.
Yeah, I love that film. I mean, though I've got friends who are sort of 10 years younger than me, are like, huh? It's crap. No, really, it isn't.
Then lose those friends. You don't need them in your
No, it's
social
all it's
circle.
all no, no, I'll allow them to stay in. But everyone's allowed an opinion, even if it's wrong. But I remember, as a sixth form student, we would have Lost Boys days where we would go around our friend's house and watch Lost Boys, dress up as the Lost Boys, and quiz each other on the Lost Boys. And it was quite cult. It was a cult film. And
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, like you say, yeah, I think it's one of the best vampire films, because it isn't a vampire film. It's a film that has vampires in it. Um, so yeah, those are my five. But I
Good
think we
choices.
I think
Good
we need to
choices.
make one about the Borough Gang.
Maybe
I'm
so.
I'm serious. I'm serious. I'm trying to think who we'd cast as Ben, who we'd cast, sorry, as Ben Crouch.
So that's one for another episode. We
It
need
is
to
one
come
for
back
another
then. So we've
episode.
decided on that. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for that. Was
You are
that okay
welcome.
for you, Paul? Did I interrupt too
Yes.
much?
Yes. I no, not at all. No, certainly no more than I did. So
I was trying really hard to sort of stop before I said something or got all excited about stuff you were saying. But
It's very
so
easy to get excited
it
about
is.
body snatching.
It
Yeah.
is. It is. So what would your last message to people who've listened to the show on body snatching be? How would you sum it up as a subject?
Um, Absolutely fascinating. And what I would say to everybody who is remotely interested in this subject, or even slightly interested in this subject, is it is the sort of thing that you can find out yourself about your own local area,
Mm,
because it goes on. Now, I mentioned the book Body Snatchers by Susie Lennox
yeah.
earlier on. You can buy that. You can get it from Amazon. You can get it from Pen and Sword, and it's got an index in the back that not only covers the bodies or the surgeons, but also the places.
Hmm.
So you can look up that intro level to the cases that have been in your area, and then you start tracking. And
Mm,
in order to track this, I used parish registers that were available via Ancestry. I
hmm.
used the British Newspaper Archive, which is an
Mm.
absolute gold mine,
Treasure chest.
because
Yeah.
yeah, because it caused such a moral outrage. It always makes the newspapers.
Yeah.
So you just need to go like onto the British Newspaper Archive and search for body snatching and your local area and see what
Mm,
it brings up, and then go from there. And then that would give me the names of the people and the names of the churches and things like that. So then I would start tracking parish records. And then as you go forward, when they start catching people, that also makes the newspapers. So you can
hmm.
get trial details and so forth. And then you get into like York Castle Jail prison records. And it's really, really excellent exercise
It's
in just
addictive.
researching something. And
It's
absolutely, yeah,
addictive.
you
Mm,
get more and more down different rabbit holes where you go.
mm.
And I've still got, I mean, I completed the study of Martha Roddy. I've yet to find what happened to Hannah Heasom. I know she was sold for £2.06, but I don't know what happened to her after that. Then I've got totally about 9 cases that I've found in Leeds so far, which only one of which I've been able to manage the whole story for.
Wow.
But yeah, get out there, get into your communities, get out on Heritage Open weekend. All the
Mm.
churches generally have that, and they always get a bit of a shock when I come into their church. They go, "Do you want to see our 15th century stained glass window?" No, I'm here to talk about 2 people who used to be in your churchyard, and that will intrigue people. But yeah, for local historians out there, the body snatching cases in your area are
And so
well worth your time.
not to assume it was just Edinburgh and London.
Not at all. I mean, just to look in the back of Susie's book on the places, I was going to throw some out here. We have Aberdeen, Norwich, Banbury, Bedminster, Birmingham, Christchurch, Cambridge, Dewsbury, Dundee, Edinburgh, Exeter, Huddersfield,
Quite a
Lanark.
few up your way then.
Yeah, like I say, A1, Manchester, Liverpool, Rochdale. It's all over the place. It is
Wow.
it
Okay.
is quite the it is quite the case. So it is one of the easiest to get into and one of the most rewarding bits of criminal history you can look into. And there's
Well,
way more of it than historians like myself can cover at all. So get out there and find these people.
yes. And on that note, I'm sure we all want to thank Paul for his time and talking about body snatchers. I'll make sure I don't say grave robbers this time. Body snatchers. You go and check out History Rage. It really is as good. It's some episodes can be quite funny to listen to, really, when you get people who are normally very straight-laced going off on one. You're probably used to meet people like me, maybe Alex Churchill, and some of that sort of sounding off about things. But there's people who I think you interviewed Guy Walters recently, didn't you? And he termed himself a
Yes,
legend. Yes, he is a legend in
he
his
is.
own
He's good.
lifetime.
He did an excellent rage back in series 2, which was that the Great Escape's not really that great
Hmm.
and wasn't that good an idea. And he recorded at the time that we were recording this. He recorded with me last night to do a rage about the 1936 Berlin Olympics,
Yeah.
which I will not throw a spoiler warning out on, but that will be coming out in probably about 4 months' time.
Okay. Well, those of you who don't know who Guy Walters is, go and check him out, and then you'll understand because I think he could be said to be a bit like Marmite when it comes to the history world.
It's
But
one of the nicest chaps I've
I
ever
actually
met.
like
It
Marmite.
really is.
You didn't let me finish my line. I was going to say I
Oh,
actually like Marmite. So he's yeah, but he if you've seen him in action, you'll understand us laughing that he described himself as a legend. So do go and check out History Rage. I have got more podcasts planned for the rest of this year for you, but you're going to have to wait because I'm not going to tell you what they are. I'm not going to spoil it for you. You can just wait. So thank you ever so much for listening. Yeah, come and say hello if you see me at any events, or if you've got anything you want me to do the Haunted Histories touch on, let me know. Take care, all. Have a good evening, sleep tight, and don't worry too much about things that go bump in the night.